They told you money is power. They lied. Power creates money. And power can be seized with empty hands. This is the blueprint they pray you never discover. The ancient formula hidden in plain sight. The reason some men rise from nothing while others drown in their own wealth. What you are about to hear has been whispered in shadows for 5 centuries. It will disturb you. It will reshape you. And if you are bold enough to apply it, it will elevate you beyond recognition. But before we begin, subscribe now. Not because I ask, but because what follows is not meant for the casual observer. This knowledge separates. It divides. It creates a gulf between those who understand power and those who merely chase symbols of it. Subscribe and mark yourself as someone who sees beneath the surface. The algorithm will not show you this twice. Machiavelli wrote The Prince with no gold in his pockets. Exiled. Humiliated. Stripped of position. Yet his words crowned and destroyed kings for generations. He understood something the wealthy could not fathom. That power is not stored in vaults. It is woven into the fabric of human need, fear, and perception. And the man who controls these forces needs no coins to command empires. You stand where he once stood, with nothing. But nothing is not empty. Nothing is the perfect void from which everything can be constructed. The question is not whether you can rise. The question is whether you have the stomach to do what rising actually requires. Let me tell you about a man named Antonio. Florence, 1390. Born in the gutters near the fish markets. No family name. No inheritance. No patron. The kind of poverty that makes you invisible. But Antonio understood something that the merchants in their silk robes did not. He understood that every man, no matter how wealthy, has a need he cannot fill himself. And whoever fills that need owns a piece of that man's will. Antonio started by learning secrets. Not stealing. Learning. He watched. He listened at tavern corners. He befriended the servants of powerful men. Not with money but with attention. With memory. With the ability to solve small problems before they became large ones. Within 3 years, merchants consulted him before signing contracts. Within 7, he decided which families would marry into which. He died owning half the wool trade in Tuscany. And he did it without ever appearing to own anything at all. You want to know how? You want the formula. But first, tell me in the comments, have you ever witnessed someone with nothing command someone with everything? Have you seen it? Because if you have, you already know this is real. You just do not yet know how it works. The blueprint has 9 movements. 9 phases of transformation. They are not steps. Steps imply you can skip one. These are movements. Sequential. Inevitable. Miss one and the structure collapses. Master all 9 and you become untouchable. We begin where all true power begins. In the realm of the invisible. The illusion of wealth. Money is a story. Nothing more. Paper and numbers given meaning by collective belief. But power is physics. It is leverage. It is the ability to make another person act according to your will. Machiavelli watched rich men beg poor soldiers for mercy. He watched wealthy merchants kneel before penniless priests. He learned early that the appearance of power and the reality of power are different substances entirely. The appearance is expensive. The reality is free. It costs nothing to be necessary. It costs nothing to be feared. It costs nothing to position yourself as the hinge upon which other men's fortunes swing. But it costs everything to appear rich while being powerless. And this is where most men trap themselves. They inherit a little, or earn a little, and immediately they spend it on the costume of power. The car, the watch, the address. They drain their resources to construct an image, believing the image will generate the reality. But it does not work in that direction. The image without the infrastructure is a cage. It demands constant feeding. It creates dependence on the very system they hope to escape. Machiavelli would have called this the error of the nouveau. The new man who mistakes the throne for the kingdom. You can sit in a throne and still be a puppet. You can wear a crown and still be owned. Here is what the wealthy will not tell you. Their power does not come from their wealth. Their wealth comes from their power. The power was built first, through relationship, through strategic position, through the control of that which others need. The money followed, but because you see the money first, you think that is the root. It is not the root. It is the fruit. And if you try to grow a tree by gluing fruit to a stick, you will starve holding a decoration. So the first movement is internal. It is the killing of your worship of money, not the desire for it. Desire is useful. Worship is fatal. You must see money for what it is. A tool. A consequence. A side effect of properly structured power. When you stop chasing it and start building the conditions that make it inevitable, you will have passed through the first gate. But this requires you to do something uncomfortable. You must become poor with purpose. Poor with clarity. You must strip yourself of the need to appear as anything other than what you are. A blank space. A question mark. A man who could be anything because he has not yet committed to the performance. Let me ask you this. Drop your answer in the comments. What do you think threatens a rich man more? Someone richer? Or someone with nothing to lose? Think carefully before you answer. The currency of perception. You own nothing. Good. That means you can be anything. The man with wealth is already defined. His title, his assets, his reputation. These are weights. They limit his movement. They create expectations. He cannot suddenly become humble without suspicion. He cannot befriend the lower classes without motive being questioned. He is trapped inside his own legend. But you are formless. And formlessness is the supreme strategic advantage. Machiavelli knew this. He studied Cesare Borgia, who understood that before you conquer a city, you must conquer its perception of inevitability. You must make your victory feel like it already happened, so that when you arrive, the gates open by themselves. Perception is currency, more valuable than gold because it determines who gets gold. If others perceive you as intelligent, you will be invited into rooms where intelligence is rewarded. If they perceive you as connected, you will be approached by those seeking connection. If they perceive you as dangerous, you will be left alone or recruited, never attacked. Perception is the game beneath the game. And it is entirely free to play. It requires no capital, only attention, only patience, only the discipline to control the small signals you send into the world. Here is the method. You do not tell people who you are. You let them conclude it. You drop fragments, partial stories. You reference things without explaining them fully. You know someone's name, but you do not say how. You predicted something, but you do not reveal your source. You leave gaps. And human beings cannot tolerate gaps. They fill them. Always in your favor if you have given them just enough to build a mystery. This is how you become larger than your resume. You allow others to imagine your depth. And imagination is always more generous than reality. But there is a trap here. The trap of the fraud. The man who builds perception on nothing and then has nothing when perception is tested. Machiavelli despised these men. He called them princes of appearance. They rise quickly. They fall faster. Because perception must be anchored to something real. Not money, but capability. You must actually be able to do something that others need. The perception magnifies it, but it cannot replace it. So while you build your formless mystique, you must simultaneously be sharpening a skill in silence. Something rare. Something that will matter when the moment comes. Think about your own life. Have you ever inflated your image beyond your ability? What happened? Tell me in the comments. Because the lesson here is not to fake everything. It is to strategically obscure your limits while rapidly eliminating them. The debt paradox. Debt is control, but not the way you think. The borrower is not always the slave. Sometimes the lender is. Machiavelli observed that small debts enslave the debtor, but massive debts enslave the creditor. If you owe a man 10 coins, you are his problem. If you owe him 10,000, he is yours. Because he cannot afford your failure. His survival is now tied to yours. He must ensure you succeed, or he loses everything. This is the paradox. This is the inversion. And this is one of the most dangerous tools available to the man starting with nothing. But let us go deeper. Debt is not only financial. It is emotional, social, psychological. Every favor you do, every problem you solve, every time you are useful without asking for immediate return, you create a debt in the invisible ledger. Most men are afraid of this. They think giving without getting is weakness. They are wrong. Giving without asking is the creation of obligation. And obligation is a rope, thin at first. But if you weave enough threads, it becomes a chain, then a cage. And the man inside it will call you friend while you hold the key. Here is how you deploy this. You find someone with power but with a problem, not a catastrophe. Catastrophes make people desperate and dangerous. A problem, something annoying, something they have not solved because it is beneath their attention but above their assistance capability. You solve it. You ask nothing. You do not even mention it after. You simply make it disappear. They notice. They feel the relief. And in that relief a debt is planted. You do this again. Different person. Different problem. You become the man who fixes things quietly. And quietly, you accumulate chits, markers, unspoken credits. Then one day you need something. You do not demand. You do not even ask directly. You simply let it be known that you have a need. And the people you helped will rush to fill it. Not because they are good, but because they are uncomfortable with imbalance. The human psyche hates unpaid debt. It itches. It nags. Resolving it brings relief. You are not manipulating them. You are allowing them to relieve themselves of the weight you carefully placed. But here is the edge of the blade. You must never collect all your debts at once. That closes the relationship. You collect partially. You stay useful. You keep them obligated. The moment you are no longer owed, you lose your leverage. So you manage the ledger. You give. You take. You give again. You become a permanent fixture in their ecosystem. And permanence is power. Have you ever had someone owe you and refuse to pay, financial or otherwise? Drop it in the comments. Because understanding how people handle debt tells you everything about how to use it. The art of necessary association. You are judged by proximity. Not by your resume. Not by your speech. By who is seen standing next to you. Machiavelli wrote that a prince is esteemed when he is a true friend or a true enemy. But for the man with nothing, enmity is expensive. Friendship, however, can be strategic. You do not need to befriend the king. You need to befriend the man the king cannot function without. The advisor, the treasurer, the chef, the bodyguard. These people have the king's ear and none of the spotlight. They are accessible. They are lonely in their usefulness. And they are starving for someone who sees them as more than a function. This is the infiltration method. You do not storm the castle. You are invited in by someone who already has keys. But you must be careful. Association is a blade with two edges. Proximity to power can elevate you. Proximity to scandal can destroy you. So you must choose your associations with the precision of a jeweler. You study the person first, not their position, their character, their trajectory. Are they rising or falling? Are they respected or tolerated? Are they about to be exposed or about to be promoted? These questions matter more than their current title. And here is the secret. You do not attach yourself to one person. That is dependency. You build a constellation. Multiple associations across multiple circles. So that if one falls, you do not fall with them. So that you become the common thread between separate powers. The bridge. The translator. The man who knows everyone but belongs to no one. This makes you indispensable. Because cutting you out means cutting connections that others depend on. How do you build this constellation with no money? You offer the only thing that the powerful rarely receive. Honest attention. Not flattery. Not worship. Attention. You remember what they said 3 months ago. You ask about the project they mentioned. You notice when they are tired. You become the person who sees them as human, not as utility. And in a world where everyone wants something, the man who simply pays attention becomes unforgettable. But let me ask you something. And be honest in the comments. How many people do you know who have access to rooms you do not? And have you ever tried to befriend them, or did you dismiss them because they were not the top of the ladder? Your answer will reveal whether you think like power or like ego. Subscribe now if you have not already. Because what comes next is the part that makes people uncomfortable. The part that separates the philosophical tourist from the true practitioner. We are about to enter the shadow. And not everyone has the nerve to stay. The power of strategic servitude. Servitude is not weakness. It is camouflage. Machiavelli saw princes who refused to serve anyone, even strategically, and they died proud and alone. He saw others who served temporarily, learned the systems, absorbed the secrets, and then eclipsed their masters. The second group built empires. The first built tombs. You must be willing to serve. But not blindly. Not permanently. Serve with a clock running in your mind. Serve with your eyes open. Serve while extracting every piece of knowledge, every contact, every hidden mechanism that makes power function. You are not a servant. You are an infiltrator. Here is the frame. Every powerful person is surrounded by two groups. Those who obey, and those who enable. Those who obey are replaceable. They do what they are told and nothing more. They are furniture. But those who enable make the powerful person more capable. They anticipate. They solve problems before they are named. They expand capacity. These people are not servants. They are force multipliers. And force multipliers are never forgotten. Even when they leave, they are called back. They are recommended. They are feared in their absence. Your goal is to become an enabler. You enter as a servant, yes. But within weeks, you are solving problems that no one asked you to solve. You are noticing inefficiencies. You are suggesting alternatives. You are quietly making yourself essential. Not through obedience, but through expansion of your master's power. And here is the trick. You do this while remaining humble in appearance. You never threaten. You never outshine. You illuminate your master, and in that light, you grow in the shadows. Machiavelli called this the art of the indispensable subordinate. The man who is too valuable to lose but too subtle to fear. And while you serve, you watch. You learn how decisions are made. You see who really has influence. You map the structure. You understand the money flows, the information flows, the loyalty flows. You are building a blueprint of the machine. So that one day when you leave, you can build your own. Or better, you can take theirs. Not through force. Through absence. You leave and things break. They call you back, but now you negotiate. Now you are a partner, not a servant. Or you do not come back at all, and you build a competing structure using everything you learned. But let me be clear. This only works if you were actually excellent while serving. If you were mediocre, your absence will be a relief. So you must serve at a level that makes your departure painful. You must become the answer to problems they did not know they had. Only then does strategic servitude become a ladder. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever worked under someone and learned more than they intended to teach you? Did you use it, or did you waste it? The invisible accumulation. Power is not seized in a moment. It is accumulated in 1,000 invisible transactions. Machiavelli despised the dramatic fool who announces his ambition. Ambition should be silent. It should be a background process, always running, never discussed. While others are performing their dreams, you should be building the infrastructure of yours in total silence. This is the discipline that separates pretenders from princes. The ability to accumulate without announcement. To grow without celebration. To become dangerous while appearing harmless. What are you accumulating? Not money yet. Money comes later. You are accumulating 5 things. Information. relationships, skills, reputation, and leverage. These are the 5 pillars. Each one is free. Each one is available to the man with nothing. But each one requires patience. Information first. You become a student of everything around you. You read. You listen. You ask questions that seem naive but are precisely targeted. You learn how your industry works, how deals are structured, how people are promoted, where the money actually comes from. You become a repository of knowledge that others have to come to you to access. Relationships second. We discussed association, but this is different. This is depth. You choose 5 people. Not the most powerful, the most strategic. People who are moving upward. People who are underestimated. People who will remember who was kind to them when they had nothing. You invest in these 5. You help them. You connect them to others. You become part of their story. And when they rise, you rise. Not because you asked, but because loyalty is rare and they will not forget who saw them before the world did. Skills third. You must be able to do something that is rare and necessary. Not passion. Not interest. Rare and necessary. If everyone can do it, it has no value. If no one needs it, it has no market. Find the intersection. For Machiavelli's era, it was rhetoric and military strategy. For ours, it might be negotiation. It might be capital allocation. It might be digital persuasion. It does not matter what it is, only that you become undeniable at it. So good that even your enemies have to acknowledge it. Reputation fourth. This is different from perception. Perception is what strangers think. Reputation is what people who have worked with you say when you are not in the room. You build this through consistency. You say you will do something, you do it. You promise a result, you deliver it. You commit to a timeline, you hit it. Boring, unglamorous. But this is what makes people trust you with bigger opportunities. Trust is the currency of the upper rooms. And you cannot buy it. You can only earn it through repetition. Leverage fifth. This is the most subtle. Leverage is anything that makes saying no to you more costly than saying yes. It might be information they do not want released. It might be a skill they cannot replace. It might be a relationship they need you to maintain. It might be a secret you keep. Leverage is not blackmail. Blackmail is clumsy and temporary. Leverage is structural. It is the architecture of mutual need. You build it by becoming the keystone. The piece that, if removed, causes collapse. You accumulate all 5 in silence. You do not post about it. You do not celebrate milestones. You just build. And while others are distracted by applause, you are compounding. Silently. Exponentially. And one day, not far from now, you will be in a room and realize you are the most dangerous person in it. And no one saw you coming. Have you started accumulating any of these 5? Or are you still trading time for money and hoping? Comment below. Be honest with yourself. The moment of separation. There is a moment in every rise where you must separate. From your old environment. From your old identity. From the people who knew you when you were weak. This is the most painful movement. Because it feels like betrayal. Feels like arrogance. But it is neither. It is survival. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must sometimes act against faith, against charity, against humanity in order to maintain his state. He did not say this with joy. He said it with clarity. Because he watched merciful princes lose their heads and pragmatic princes build dynasties. Your old friends will not understand your new moves. They will call you cold. They will say you have changed. They are correct. You have. And you must. Because the person you were could not access the life you want. So you must kill that person. Not literally, but symbolically. You must shed behaviors. Shed routines. Shed relationships that no longer serve your trajectory. This does not mean you become cruel. It means you become selective. Your time is the only non-renewable resource you have. Spending it on people who drain you is not loyalty. It is self-destruction. But here is the nuance. You do not burn bridges. You let them fade. You become busy. You become less available. You do not announce your departure. You just slowly occupy a different orbit. And the people who were meant to stay will stay. They will rise with you or they will cheer from a distance. The others will resent you. Let them. Their resentment is proof you are moving correctly. If everyone from your past is comfortable with your present, you have not moved at all. This moment of separation also applies to mentality. You must separate from the belief that hard work alone will save you. It will not. Hard work is abundant. The world is full of exhausted people with nothing. What is rare is strategic work, leverage work, work that compounds. You must separate from the need to be liked. Being liked is expensive. It requires constant performance. Being respected is free. It requires only consistency and boundaries. You must separate from fairness. The world is not fair. It never was. Waiting for fairness is waiting for permission that will never come. Machiavelli's greatest separation was from the illusion of morality in power. He did not say be immoral. He said understand that morality and power operate on different planes. A moral man can be powerful if he is strategic. But a moral man who refuses strategy will be destroyed by less moral men who embrace it. So you separate your personal ethics from your strategic actions. You can be kind in your heart, but you must be cold in your decisions. The moment you let emotion dictate strategy, you lose. Tell me, have you ever had to cut someone off to grow? Did you do it, or did guilt keep you chained? Drop your story below. The creation of dependency. This is where you transition from useful to irreplaceable. Dependency is the ultimate power. Not fear. Not love. Dependency. Because fear fades when the threat is gone. Love fades when something shinier arrives. But dependency is structural. If they need you to function, they cannot discard you. They can hate you and still need you. They can fear you and still need you. Need is the iron law. Machiavelli watched the Medici family build an empire not through force, but by making every major player in Florence dependent on Medici banking. Remove the Medici and the entire economy convulsed. That is power. How do you create dependency with no money? You become the solution to a recurring problem. Not a one-time problem. Recurring. Something they face again and again. And you make yourself the most efficient answer to that problem. Maybe you are the only person who can negotiate with a difficult partner. Maybe you are the one who understands a complex system that no one else wants to learn. Maybe you hold relationships that cannot be transferred. You find that recurring need and you make yourself the path of least resistance. But here is the advanced move. You create the problem and the solution. Not maliciously. Structurally. You design systems that require your input to function. You build processes that only you fully understand. You become the interpreter between two parties that cannot communicate without you. You are the bridge, and bridges control traffic. This is not sabotage. This is architecture. You are building yourself into the foundation so that removing you would require demolition. Let me give you a modern example. A man joins a company. He notices the sales team and the product team do not communicate well. He starts a weekly email summarizing product updates in language the sales team understands. Simple, helpful, free. Within 3 months, the sales team relies on this email. They do not read the product documentation anymore. They wait for his summary. He is now essential. Not because of his title, but because he solved a friction point and made himself the solution. If he leaves, that friction returns. So when he asks for a raise or a new role, the cost of saying no is higher than the cost of saying yes. You do this across multiple domains. You make yourself the answer in several areas. Not one. One is fragile. Several is a web. And once you have created enough dependency, you can start making demands. Not requests. Demands. Because they need you more than you need them. This is the inversion. This is when the man with nothing becomes the man with everything, while still appearing to own nothing. But dependency has a dark side. If you become too essential, you become a threat. So you must balance. You must be essential but not irreplaceable in a way that scares leadership. You must allow them to feel like they still have control, even as you tighten the structure around yourself. This is the dance. This is mastery. Have you ever been in a situation where you were so essential they could not fire you? Or have you been too replaceable to matter? Tell me which, and tell me why. If you are still watching, subscribe. Because you are the person this is for. Most people left already. They wanted the Disney version. You are still here. That means you are serious. Lock it in. Subscribe. Join the few who actually apply this. The final inversion. This is the endgame. The moment when you stop playing their game and force them to play yours. Machiavelli described this as the moment the prince no longer needs the favor of fortune because he has become the structure of inevitability. You are no longer reacting to opportunities. You are creating them. You are no longer being chosen. You are choosing. This is the inversion. From subject to sovereign. From participant to architect. How does this happen? It happens when you control something they cannot replicate. It might be an audience. It might be a relationship with a key player. It might be a process. It might be knowledge. But it is yours, and it cannot be taken. Only given. And you stop giving it away. You start licensing it. You start charging for access. Not in arrogance. In clarity. You have built value. Now you extract value. This is not greed. This is the natural law of economy. Value flows toward those who control scarcity. Here is the psychological shift. You stop seeking approval. You start granting access. People used to decide if you were worthy of their time. Now you decide if they are worthy of yours. This flip is not about ego. It is about market position. You have made yourself scarce and necessary. Scarcity plus necessity equals premium. You are now the premium. And premium does not beg. It does not negotiate down. It states terms. And those who need it pay. But the inversion is not just economic. It is existential. You are no longer the person trying to become powerful. You are powerful, now deciding what to do with it. This is the inflection point most people never reach because they do not recognize it. They keep behaving like the underdog even after they have won. They keep discounting. They keep over-delivering. They keep performing gratitude. And they stay trapped in the servant frame even though the structure has shifted. You must recognize the moment. It is subtle. It is the moment when people start coming to you instead of you going to them. When invitations arrive without effort. When your name is mentioned in rooms you are not in. When opportunities appear that you did not apply for. This is the signal. The market is telling you that you have crossed the threshold. And the biggest mistake you can make is ignoring that signal and continuing to act small. Machiavelli said fortunes change, but men do not. He meant that men fail to adapt their behavior to the new reality. The tactics that got you here will not get you there. Humility and service were correct when you had nothing. But if you maintain them after you have built leverage, you will be exploited. You must shift. You must become less accessible, less eager, less grateful, not rude, just expensive. Expensive in time, expensive in energy, expensive in access. This is the final inversion. You become the goal, not the pursuer. You become the prize, not the contestant. And this is not something you declare. It is something you embody. Through boundaries, through selectivity, through the quiet confidence of someone who knows their value and does not need external validation to confirm it. Are you still chasing, or have you built something worth chasing? Comment your truth. The silence after power. There is a strange thing that happens when you finally acquire power. Silence. Not the silence of being ignored. The silence of no longer needing to speak. Machiavelli spent years in politics, arguing, persuading, maneuvering. Then he was exiled, stripped of voice. And in that silence, he wrote The Prince. The work that outlived every man who silenced him. He learned that the loudest power is often the weakest, and the quietest ink can command centuries. When you have nothing, you must speak. You must network. You must convince. But when you have built real power, you stop explaining yourself. Your results speak. Your reputation speaks. The people you have elevated speak. You become quiet. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you no longer need to say it. Others say it for you. This is the apex. When your power is so embedded in the structure that it functions without your presence. Most people never reach this because they are addicted to the performance. They are addicted to being seen as powerful. So they keep talking, keep posting, keep reminding everyone of their status. And in doing so, they reveal insecurity. True power is relaxed. It does not assert. It does not justify. It simply is. And everyone in the room feels it without a word being spoken. You will know you have arrived when you can sit in silence in a room full of noise and people turn to you for the final word. When your opinion is sought, not offered. When your absence is noted more than most people's presence. This is not arrogance. This is gravity. You have accumulated enough mass that you create your own orbit. And others revolve around you, not because you demand it, but because the structure of value pulls them toward you. But here is the warning. Power makes you lonely, because you can no longer afford authenticity with most people. Every interaction becomes strategic. Every friendship has a calculation. Every word you speak is measured for consequence. This is the cost. Machiavelli died isolated, bitter, unrecognized in his time. But his ideas conquered the world. So you must decide what you want, the warmth of connection, or the cold of command. Most people cannot have both. The few who do have both are the ones who compartmentalize ruthlessly. They have one circle for power, and one circle for humanity, and they never mix the two. Which do you value more, connection or power? Tell me in the comments. And be honest, because your answer determines which blueprint you should actually be following. The cycle of collapse and reinvention. Machiavelli also taught that nothing lasts. Republics fall. Princes are overthrown. Empires crumble. Not because they were weak, but because they stopped adapting. They calcified. They assumed their power was permanent. And permanence is the beginning of decay. So even after you build power, you must be ready to destroy it and rebuild. This is the cycle. This is the ultimate Machiavellian truth. Power is not a destination. It is a process. And the process requires periodic collapse. Why collapse? Because systems become inefficient. Relationships become stale. Strategies become predictable. If you do not collapse them intentionally, they will collapse unintentionally, and you will be buried in the rubble. So you must develop the discipline of controlled demolition. Every few years, you audit your life. What is no longer serving you? Which relationships are now liabilities? Which strategies are now obvious? And you remove them. Ruthlessly. You burn the old structure and rebuild with new materials. This terrifies most people. They finally achieve stability and they cling to it. They optimize the same business model for decades. They maintain the same relationships out of nostalgia. They repeat the same moves because they worked once. And then the world shifts. Technology changes. Culture changes. The market changes. And they are left holding obsolete power. A kingdom with no subjects. A currency no one accepts. But the Machiavellian does not cling. He anticipates. He sees the early signs of decay and he initiates the collapse himself. He sells at the peak. He exits relationships before they sour. He pivots before the market forces him to. This requires detachment. Emotional detachment from your own creations. You must love the process of building, not the thing built. Because the thing will eventually need to be destroyed. And if you cannot destroy it, someone else will. Machiavelli himself had to reinvent. From politician to exile. From exile to writer. From writer to philosopher. Each collapse forced evolution. and each evolution expanded his influence. He did not choose the collapses, but he adapted to them. And in adapting, he became immortal. You may not have his intellect, but you can have his flexibility. And flexibility is more valuable than strength. The tree that bends survives the storm. The tree that resists breaks. Have you ever had to start over? Did it destroy you, or did it make you sharper? Drop it below. The morality question. Let us address it. Because you are thinking it. Is this evil? Is the Machiavellian path immoral? Machiavelli himself struggled with this. He was a Republican. He believed in virtue. But he also witnessed virtue without strategy become martyrdom. He saw good men lose to bad men because the good men refused to adopt the tools of power. So he wrote a manual, not to celebrate cruelty, but to arm the strategic so they could survive the cruel. Here is the truth. Morality is a luxury of the powerful. When you have nothing, you do not get to be purely moral. You get to survive. And survival requires actions that comfort cannot afford. You lie when the truth would destroy you. You flatter when honesty would alienate. You betray when loyalty would enslave you. Not because you are evil, because you are outmatched. And the moral high ground is a graveyard for the weak. But once you have power, morality becomes possible again. Because you can afford it. You can be generous because you have resources. You can be honest because you cannot be destroyed for it. You can be kind because kindness is no longer a vulnerability. So the Machiavellian path is not the rejection of morality. It is the delay of it. You do what is necessary to acquire power. And then you decide what kind of power you want to wield. Some will use it to dominate. Some will use it to build. Some will use it to protect. The method is neutral. The outcome depends on the man. Machiavelli gave you the gun. He did not tell you who to shoot. That is your choice. But pretending the gun does not exist will not save you when someone else picks it up and aims it at you. So I am not here to tell you this is good or evil. I am here to tell you this is effective. And in a world where effectiveness determines survival, you can be moral after you are powerful. But if you insist on being moral while you are weak, you will stay weak. And your morality will die with you, unremembered and irrelevant. What do you think? Is power amoral, or is the pursuit of power itself a moral question? Argue in the comments. I want to see your reasoning. The enemy within. The final enemy is not external. It is you. Your doubt. Your nostalgia. Your need for approval. Your fear of losing what you have gained. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must learn to be not good. But the hardest person to teach this to is yourself. Because you have been trained since childhood to seek validation. To be liked. To avoid conflict. And every step of this blueprint requires you to violate that training. You will hesitate. You will feel guilt. You will question whether you are becoming something you despise. This is normal. This is the friction between who you were and who you must become. Do not try to eliminate it. Use it. Let the guilt remind you not to become needlessly cruel. Let the doubt keep you sharp. But do not let either stop you. Because the moment you stop, someone else continues. And they will take the position you could have had. The enemy within also appears as comfort. Once you achieve a little success, you will want to rest. You will want to enjoy it. And the moment you rest, you slow. And the moment you slow, you are past. There is no finish line. There is only movement. And the Machiavellian understands that the game does not end until you are dead. So you do not retire. You do not plateau. You evolve. You expand. You find new arenas. You apply the same principles to new domains. You become a pattern, not a person. A process, not a position. This is exhausting. I will not lie to you. The Machiavellian path is not peaceful. It is vigilant. It is relentless. It is the choice to live in tension rather than comfort. Most people cannot sustain it. They taste power and then they soften. They build wealth and then they coast. And within a generation, their legacy is forgotten. But the few who stay dangerous, who stay hungry, who stay strategic even after they win, those are the ones who build dynasties. So the question is not whether you can start this path. Anyone can start. The question is whether you can sustain it. Whether you can remain cold when the world warms you. Whether you can stay focused when distractions multiply. Whether you can keep building when you have enough. Because enough is the killer. Enough is the lie that stops emperors and turns them into footnotes. Are you capable of sustained hunger, or will you plateau the moment things get comfortable? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe if you want more of this. Because this is not entertainment. This is architecture. And if you are serious about building a life of power from nothing, you need to hear this more than once. The algorithm rewards loyalty. Show it. Subscribe now. The blueprint applied. Let us synthesize. You start with nothing. You kill your worship of money and you embrace formlessness. You build perception carefully, letting others conclude your value rather than declaring it. You create debt, emotional and social, by being useful without asking for return. You associate strategically with those who have keys, not crowns. You serve temporarily but extract permanently, learning systems and relationships while appearing humble. You accumulate information, relationships, skills, reputation, and leverage in total silence. Then you separate from old environments, old identities, old limitations. You create dependency by becoming the solution to recurring problems, embedding yourself into systems so that your absence causes friction. You recognize the moment of inversion, when the market starts coming to you, and you shift your behavior from pursuit to selection. You embrace the silence that comes with real power. You prepare for cycles of collapse and reinvention, never clinging to obsolete structures. You navigate the morality question with clarity, understanding that power enables morality, not the reverse. And you defeat the enemy within, sustaining hunger and vigilance long after others would rest. This is the blueprint. It is not theory. It is pattern recognition across centuries of human behavior. Machiavelli documented it in Renaissance Italy, but it applies in ancient Rome, in feudal Japan, in Soviet Russia, in Silicon Valley. The names change, the clothes change, the technology changes, but the mechanics of power are eternal, because human nature is eternal, and whoever understands human nature can shape it. You do not need money to start. You need clarity. You need patience. You need the ability to delay gratification and think in years, not weeks. You need the stomach to do things that will make you uncomfortable. And you need the vision to see that your current position is temporary. That you are not stuck. You are staging. This is not your final form. This is your larval stage. And if you apply these principles with discipline, you will emerge as something unrecognizable to your former self. But let me warn you one last time. This path is not for everyone. It is not even for most people. Most people want the appearance of power without the cost. They want the Instagram version, the highlight reel. They do not want the silent years, the invisible accumulation, the strategic servitude, the loneliness, the moral ambiguity. And that is fine. The world needs followers. It needs consumers. It needs people who stay comfortable, because their comfort creates opportunities for those who do not. So if you are still here, you are not most people. You are the exception, the outlier, the one who heard something dark and instead of turning away, leaned in. Good. That instinct will serve you. Trust it. But also discipline it. Because instinct without strategy is just chaos. And chaos burns bright and fast and leaves nothing behind. The final whisper. Machiavelli died in 1527. Poor. Forgotten by his contemporaries. His books were banned. His name was cursed. But 500 years later, we still whisper his name. We still study his methods. We still apply his principles. Because he understood something that transcends time. That power is not about the man. It is about the pattern. And the pattern does not die. You will die. I will die. Everyone watching this will die. But if you build something larger than yourself, If you embed yourself into systems and people and ideas, you continue. Not literally, but functionally. Your influence persists. Your methods are inherited. Your name is remembered. Or maybe it is not. Maybe you are forgotten. But the change you caused remains. And that is immortality. So take this blueprint. Apply it. Adapt it. Make it yours. Do not worship it. Use it. And when you have extracted everything from it, collapse it and build something new. Because the ultimate Machiavellian move is to transcend Machiavelli himself. To take his pattern and evolve it into something he could not imagine. That is how you honor a teacher. Not by repeating him, but by surpassing him. If this resonated, if this disturbed you, if this woke something that has been asleep, then subscribe. Not for me. For yourself. Because you will forget this. The world will distract you. Comfort will seduce you. And you will need to be reminded. Let this channel be that reminder. Let it be the voice that pulls you back when you start to drift. Subscribe. Lock it in. And then go build something that makes you dangerous. The blueprint is yours now. What you do with it will define you. Choose power.